Hi guys, and welcome to another WonderHero video. So in this video, I'll be talking about the different damage types that the heroes as well as the enemies do. So let's get right into it, right? So this is a recording of some of my previous gameplay, and I'm probably gonna pause. So just to illustrate, there are a few different damage types, and for damage types, you can actually see it in the guide here. If you go to the WonderHero website, wonderhero.io, if you go into on the left, right, let's zoom in. On the left, go to, I think it's stat attributes, weapon damage attributes. Okay, so under weapon damage attributes, they will have like this website will actually explain element damage is purple, true damage is orange, physical damage is white, and so on and so forth. Heal effect is green, and damage over time is, I think it is considered purple. It's sort of like magenta purple, deep purple. So you will have a OT display as well. Units affected by damage over time will receive continuous damage. Okay. So basically, when you have, let's go through the main ones. What there are a few damages that can, few damage types that can crit. So basically, only element damage can crit, can have critical, and physical damage can crit as well. If you have someone that's doing true damage cannot crit, but true damage will ignore the target's defense and resist. So there is one thing that can actually defend against true damage, which is a basic attack defense. So I'll probably go through the defense types in another video, but let's just go through this. So in this part of the pause video here, you see that the enemy dealt like purple damage to us, 370 as well as 217. So this is what we call elemental damage. And you can defend against elemental damage using elemental resist or elemental defense. And there's this 79, which is in light blue and has a word absorb. Basically, this is damage against shields or against armor. So in WonderHero, there's hit points, which you can see on the top bar here. And then you also have items that can give you shield, and there are certain heroes that can generate shield, such as Ling and Friend. There are certain moves that actually can generate shield around themselves, so which provides no, they can generate armor. In this game, it's called armor. So you can generate armor around themselves, which provide like additional tankiness, right? Additional hit points, or so to say. So armor acts the same as hit points. Basically, you have to reduce the armor to 0 before you can reduce the enemy's hit point bar. And then if we look at the white one, so I'll just reverse it here. So white is physical damage, right? 458, this is physical damage dealt by the enemy. And you can see here that when there's a critical, so the enemy dealt physical damage and then the other enemy dealt elemental damage. So there's 392 and 399. Whenever you do critical damage to an enemy or enemy deals critical damage to us, the numbers will become bigger, and there's a word that says critical that appears on top of it. So there's critical damage. Okay, so just for people who are curious, this purple thing is called a bind status. So the enemy has a bind move that actually binds our heroes in place, and they cannot move for the next turn, basically. And then if you see there's an orange, if there's an orange like chain around them, it's called a disarm, which means they can move but they cannot attack. So I think this set of enemies, they have both bind and disarm as well. Okay, so you can see that my Celeste here does elemental damage to a weapon. Basically, the elemental damage will be associated with their base weapon. So if you look at the weapon description, so maybe I can show you in-game here. For example, if you look at the weapon description, you click on the weapon, it will show you that this weapon does elemental damage, right? And then if you look at Sarah's weapon here, click on the weapon, it will show you that this weapon does physical damage to enemies, right? So basically, yeah, that's it. So you gotta look at the weapon description. Like for Shion's Muramasa, it says here it does true damage. So basically, just look at the weapon description before you buy it. Like the weapon description appears in the marketplace as well, and then you will know what kind of damage type it does. So you can see that above here. So when Sarah actually does physical damage, so Sarah does physical damage to the enemy. This 5-star weapon, black and white, that she has basically does physical damage against the enemy, and then she heals herself for 15% of that damage dealt. So whatever is healed, it will appear in green, and there's a word that says heal. And you will see that my Xion does orange damage, which is true damage against the enemy. So true damage will basically ignore the enemy's the resist and defense. So you go through their defense stats per se, which you can actually see the stats here. For example, my Xion actually has a defense stats of 120 and resist of 213. But if the enemy were to attack us with true damage, it will ignore this defense stat and then go through. So this is physical defense, and this is resist is actually elemental defense. I'll go through that in more detail another time. And then that's heal. And basically that's it. So you can see that there is a critical here. So the crit damage, I think, I'm not sure exactly what is the multiplier for crit. I don't see any explanation for it. But it's a certain percentage more. Definitely does more than the normal damage. So the critical here, the words are in bigger, and there's a word critical there. Okay. So yeah, basically that's about it. So which damage type is the best? It's really hard to say. So basically true damage is good because it ignores the enemy's defense, but true damage is quite hard to get. Usually only 5-star weapons will deal true damage. Physical damage is the most common, and next being elemental damage is the second most common. So yeah, there's no good or bad, but true damage is technically good, but you have to also think that you have to imagine that true damage actually cannot crit, as you can see that the enemies actually does quite a bit of crit to us, right? So you can see that physical damage it crits here, and then before that, yeah, in this was it here? Yeah, here in this particular frame, the enemy dealt critical damage to us as well, which is that more, I think, quite a big percentage more than their normal damage. So true damage, even though it's good that it ignores the enemy's defense, you have to take note that because it doesn't crit, so it might not be that ideal. Because if you can actually crit with your elemental as well as your physical damage, you might actually end up doing more damage to the enemy than if you were to do with a true damage weapon. So there's no good or bad, it's just an illustration of different kinds of damage. Okay, thank you very much for watching. See you guys next time.